Let's face it, every 15 seconds, a woman is battered by her spouse or intimate partner. Every day, 5 women are murdered.
Mommy!
It's time to stop the cycle. It's time for PeaceWorks. A shelter in Tennessee is making art and making a difference. Join us, PeaceWorks. A stitch in time saves lives.
Remember my name. Mother, we are here, your children. The pulse of our lives is driven by your deep heart. Our sisters and daughters call, remember my name. On the edge of the great circle of life and death, our mothers call, mindful lovers and friends call. Celebrate my name. With joy and courage, love and hope, involved in this great mystery, remember my name. This life is so short, this life is forever.
Around the world, women are breaking the silence about the violence they experience in intimate relationships and giving birth to a vision of a world where power is shared, not abused, within families. PeaceWorks is a film telling the story of artists, activists, and formerly battered women in a rural Tennessee domestic violence shelter. They are gathering the pieces, music, art, poetry, and beginning to make peace, one stitch at a time.
Well, I really think that violence is an epidemic in this society. Our society and its members seem to me to be addicted to violence as a way of either solving our problems or at least taking revenge on those that we think are the cause of our problems. And I think that violence is an idol of our culture as well as a sickness in the fabric of the society.
The PeaceWorks project will bring to the forefront of this problem that we face of domestic violence, which is not just a local problem, it's an international problem.
I think that there are many points to try to intervene in the society to try to stop this vicious cycle of violence, but I don't think any of them is as important as the home. I think that if we continue to have millions of children growing up experiencing or being victims of violence in their own home, that will guarantee that many of them will resort to violence as learned behavior in their adult lives, and it'll just perpetuate and escalate the problem. I think that the roots of violence in our streets, in our wars, in our prisons, are in our homes, and that's where it most prominently needs to be addressed.
Children are affected very adversely by domestic violence, and it's intergenerational patterns of violence that we feel like are the root cause of so many other social problems. And if we can get to the heart of the matter on that level and put faces on it, help people see that these are real live women with needs and hopes and dreams and desires for fullness of life for themselves and their families. And we want to be about creating an environment where those kinds of changes can happen.
When the ladies first come in, they usually just come with a little bag of clothes that's for themselves and several children most of the time, and the children are real afraid and frightened as well as the mother. Most of the children are bouncing. Some of them, after they get over the fear, they're bouncing off the walls. They're trying to deal with emotions that's going on with them, and they react out in all different ways. But after they stay at the shelter for a while, the mother gains hope, and that fear leaves her. She learns that a new way of life, that there is a new way of life, and she gets a job. She comes independent, you know, gets her own housing, and she learns how to be a good parent.
We have the largest shelter in Tennessee, and we served about 750 women and children last year in our programs. And battering is so common in rural, isolated areas like ours that it indirectly or directly affects every family.
Yeah, I'm living proof that there is help, that you can go on, that there can be a different life, and that you can, you know, overcome that so much power and control that the other person has over you, and that there is a new way of life, a good life. You just, you know, you just have to find it, and we help them to find that life.
PeaceWorks has been made by people with from their own personal experience. I know some of the personal stories that are being told. It's stories that we hear over and over again at the shelter.
By involving the people whose stories are in the PeaceWorks film, by involving them in the process of creating this, it's very empowering. It helps empower people to see that their stories are being told. The silence is broken.
The exciting thing to me about the PeaceWorks project is that it uses the arts and culture, stories, images, symbols, to communicate the reality of domestic violence and the possibilities for liberation and healing from it in ways that intellectual analysis and statistics just simply can't do. And it does that in ways that ordinary people from all walks of life can relate to, even if they themselves haven't been victims or experienced it themselves.
The proceeds from this PeaceWorks film documentary will be used to further the many programs, and I say programs, plural, that happens at the shelter. Their lives are being transformed, children are being saved, and families are being preserved through the efforts that happen at the shelter.
I believe that it will bring attention to domestic violence. There's still so many people that don't know that there's services available for them.
I think it's great. I think it's really terrific, and I think this is going to reach a lot of battered women and let them know, you know, that there is help, and they're going to see themselves through this movie, you know, and other people.
I think this can be especially important in our churches and other community organizations. I work with United Methodist Churches in Tennessee to combat violence and poverty and sexism and racism and other forms of oppression, and to link those up with each other and help people see the way they're connected. Something like this would be very important to me in my work. It would be a tool and a resource that I could use in consciousness raising and education that I don't really have right now.
There are many uses that we see for this film. It could be used in social service training programs. It could be used in educational settings for psychology and sociology type, social work type programs to help give a concise visual way of understanding those realities without a lot of words, but getting right to the heart of the matter. I would like for people to see this film and feel transformed, have new understanding of the dimensions of this problem, the dynamics, the way it works. There are vignettes that address all different kinds of violence, the post-traumatic stress disorder that's very common among battered women. There are vignettes that deal with all these different components of it, and so I would like to educate, but I would also like for people to see how they can be a catalyst for change. The PeaceWorks process means everybody is involved in ending violence, not just the courts, not just the police, not just people in battered women's shelters, but the whole community takes responsibility for making the changes and making peace. When a human being is deeply threatened biologically, there are two responses, a fight response and a flight response. And both of those have negative connotations. You can escape into alcohol and drugs, and that's what happens sometimes. PeaceWorks is a third choice, a third alternative. Not fighting, not flying away and not dealing with it, but holding hands with your sisters and going through the pain and the struggle and finding life on the other side. That's PeaceWorks.
When I was sinking and thought I might drown, when I was falling so fast, about to hit the ground, I was held captive, couldn't find my way free. The night was closing in so dark that I could not see. Then you sent me an angel, the humankind. Sent me an angel to ease my mind. Sent me an angel, and now I know there are angels everywhere that I go.
The Shelter Incorporated is seeking your support to produce an artistic documentary film that will be distributed nationally to educate and enlighten the public about the dimensions and dynamics of domestic violence. The proceeds from the sale of the video will benefit the local program, but the impact of the work will help bring needed social structural change around this issue. Your donation could make a difference in the lives of millions of people who struggle with violence and provide exposure for the women artists and activists involved with the PeaceWorks project. With this documentary, their stories will be heard and their experiences, wisdom, and contributions to the movement to end domestic violence affirmed.
Send me an angel to ease my mind.
PeaceWorks, 615-766-0087. A stitch in time saves lives.
Well,